What's up, YouTube? It's JV Panther back on a video, and today's video is actually a Star Wars like a news update kind of video. Again, there hasn't been anything new really to talk about, but again, I will link the article in the description box down below so you guys can check it out. And this is a pretty interesting article, and that's why I decided to pick up on it, right? Because usually I wouldn't pick up any just random articles unless I think it's interesting enough to make a video about it. So this comes from ScreenRant.com, right? It says Star Wars fans will forgive the rise of Skywalker quicker than the prequels. The rise of Skywalker this is I guess from the article of this guy's perspective. The rise of Skywalker enjoys a warmer perception than any of the upcoming years. Star Wars prequels, the rise of Skywalker really means the rise of Palpatine. One that would advise a reminder that The Last Jedi 2 years earlier, of course, the Disney era is also hardly the first time the franchise has been less than universally beloved. The Rise of Skywalker. Again, this is going to be a long-ass article. I'm just going to read the stuff that seems important. The fans have embraced the prequels. One noticeable phenomenon that the Star Wars has been seen is the revelation of the prequel trilogy. It currently isn't the first time that movies that were once subject to a negative or polarizing reception has their own reputations, improving after the fact that Stanley curbs the shining. Listen, I don't know any of this shit. The Star Wars fan base and other factors make the renewed love for the prequels a somewhat different solution. Many Star Wars fans were, again, I guess they had issues with Count Dooku, and then you have the Clone Wars. Again, this article is just the prequels more hated than the Rise of Skywalker. And I guess it's just from this dude's perspective. And again, I'm just going to give you my own thoughts about it. Again, this article is long as hell, and I don't feel like reading the whole entire thing. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it, right? In my personal opinion, with the Rise of Skywalker, at least the Disney trilogy, I feel like it's going to take like 30, 40 years for people to forget about the Disney Star Wars trilogy. Because people say, well, what about the prequels, stuff like that? And listen, at least with the prequels, and now listen, this is a hardcore Star Wars conversation, right? At least with the prequels, you had villains. You had Darth Maul. You had General Grievous. You had Count Dooku. You had Darth Vader. You had Palpatine. You had real badass mofos running the whole entire Star Wars lore. You feel me? And then also, if you actually read the books, which I have the books and stuff like that on my iPad, and I have actual of the legends and stuff like that, is that they added more to the lore. Like they expanded upon it, the EU and stuff like that. They've expanded upon these stories with these new, with the prequels and stuff like that, like the Dark Lord Rises, the Darth Maul, the Clone Wars. Like there's so much other lore and myth that you added to the Star Wars franchise, after the prequels. You feel me? Like, what happens if Anakin was this? What if Obi-Wan stayed at Tatooine? What if General Grievous didn't die that quickly? Like, Darth Maul, what if he would have been, like, the ruler of the Empire? You know what I mean? Like, there was so much stuff that they did with the prequel trilogy. With the Disney trilogy, there's nothing in there. They're just retcon. Disney and Lucasfilm, they are just retconning after retconning at all the movies with the books. Because the books, at least with the prequel trilogies, they use to expand upon the stories. Disney's using the books instead of explaining all the stuff in the movies. They want to use the books to explain what happens in the movie. But then you watch the movies, they retcon everything you read in the books. Like, for example, the Aftermath trilogy. I guess it's supposed to be a 3 prequel novelization of before The Force Awakens. So it shows you like why Luke was in the HUD and all this other BS. But then watch The Force Awakens. It's a straight up cut and paste of episode 4 of A New Hope. It's a straight shot by shot remake of the movie that came out in 1977. So it's like with new characters. And there's nothing that, as a hardcore fan, if people hated the prequels and stuff like that, but when it came to the sequel trilogy, it just retcons everything. It just says F you, F you, F you, F you. And then The Force Awakens is a straight up copy. The Last Jedi retcon everything. And then you have The Rise of Skywalker that retcons everything. And then you have the book, I guess the Rise of Palpatine book or whatever, the novelization, just pretty much tells you that Palpatine is a clone. Rey's father is a clone. Rey's father is Palpatine, and the grandfather is Palpatine. And she steals a Skywalker name, then she leaves, and then she goes back to Poe, Finn, and all of them. And I'm like, bro, that's a terrible ending from a novelization. Good thing no one's buying that shit, especially now what's happening around the world and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure those Rise of Skywalker novel sales aren't gonna do that hot sales-wise, but I guess Disney doesn't care. But in my personal opinion, I'm trying not to get too off track, is that I do think the prequel trilogy is more loved because it respected Star Wars a lot more than it did with the sequel trilogy. It didn't. You could tell this was George Lucas' vision. Now I think the way it was executed wasn't the best when it came to prequel. The prequel's dialogue's really, really bad, and there's a lot of plot holes and stuff like that, because the Clone Wars cartoon explains Anakin a lot better. And I understand, like, it's hard to tell a story about Anakin Skywalker in a 3-trilogy movie. You feel me? I understand it's hard as hell to do all that. The Clone Wars does a better job at doing that, but then we all find out that the Clone Wars in the cartoon is not doing that hot. People complain about it. It's like really, really bad, and Disney's messing up, whatever. But with the prequel trilogy, at least it respected the Star Wars lore, and also the prequels had better fights. You know what I mean? You just had better lightsaber fight. What was the most memorable lightsaber fight you had with the Disney trilogy? Like, nothing. They were all trash. I'm sorry. Like, the fights were pretty bad. It was pretty much Kylo Ren being a Mickey Mouse Darth Vader, trying to, trying to kill Rey. You feel me? And then he loves her, then he kills her, then he loves her, then he kills her. I mean, it was ridiculous. You feel me? And also with the sequel trilogy, why is it hated? Because it just retcons episodes 1 through 6, the movies, the cartoons, the video games, the comics. It retcons all that and makes Rey into this feminist, Me Too movement, savior type chick. And then you wonder why the fan base is pissed off and now they're boycotting it. And it shows you that it didn't do that well, because Joker made more money than Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was really a big, big movie, and Joker did way better than that. So I feel like the prequels just did much more and felt more like Star Wars than it does with the Disney sequel trilogy. And the Disney sequel trilogy feels way more corporate and cash grab, and it feels like it's made by committee. It's not made by people who truly, truly care about Star Wars. J.J. Abrams, I don't care what anyone says, he's a corporate cash grab. You know what I mean? Like, he's a very, very safe guy. You feel me? Cut and paste. Rian Johnson, he came out and said he's not a Star Wars fan. He just used the platform to tear it up and do whatever he wanted. That's pretty much what it was. And what we're seeing right now with the sequel trilogy is that it's going to take years for people to recognize it, because it's owned by Disney. Disney will make another Disney Star Wars trilogy, and, people will hate that as well. So what I'm trying to say is that you at least with the prequels, you had the creator involved trying to tell his vision. The sequel trilogy was a corporate cash grab by Disney and Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, and they completely messed it up and they completely destroyed it. The only positive thing I will say about this Disney Star Wars thing is Rogue One, but Rogue One, they had to get James Earl Jones, and pretty much Darth Vader had to be the main selling point of the movie. Because if you talk to anybody else about Rogue One, any casual or any like hardcore fan, they don't know anything about that freaking movie. I don't even know like the main chick in the movie in Rogue One. Everyone forgot about her. Like, most of the characters are very, very forgettable except Darth Vader. All you know is him just killing everyone and stabbing everyone with the lightsaber. That's pretty much it. And the other part of Disney Star Wars that is positive is the Mandalorian. But again, that's not done by Disney really. They greenlit it. But Jon Favreau is the one who's overshadowing. He's pretty much producing and writing and directing a lot of this stuff. And he's a hardcore Star Wars fan. And he did his best trying to heal the Star Wars. Again, I'm not saying Mandalorian is the greatest show ever. But if you're looking at all the other Disney Star Wars movies, where most of them are shit, and then you have a TV show which is above average. Let's just say, like, Mandalorian's pretty much a space western. It's like above average. You feel me? Like, so when you have something that's above average and it does way better than most of the other stuff, and the main selling point is Baby Yoda, but then the Mandalorian, the show, it takes place 5 years after Return of the Jedi, but then you watch The Rise of Skywalker, they retcon everything. So that's the only positive thing I can say about the Disney Star Wars era, but the prequels is going to be more love because it respects the lore and it respects the fans of the Star Wars lore and the mythology, where the sequel trilogy just gives you pretty much a big middle finger, and people are going to hate it, especially the hardcore fans. They're not going to forgive a lot of this stuff. You feel me? This is not. You're not going to just act like this is going to happen. In the prequel trilogy, people bitched about it, but the reason why the prequel trilogy didn't destroy Star Wars, it just was the dialogue and the way it was executed and stuff like that. And, you know, Jar Jar Binks and all this other stuff, but overall, it didn't disrespect Star Wars like that. You know what I mean? It didn't destroy everything when it came to Star Wars. The sequel trilogy, they made sure to let you know that this is over. They let you know it's completely gone, it's destroyed, and what the article is saying, I just don't see the hardcore Star Wars fans ever forgiving the sequel trilogy. Maybe like 30, 40 years from now, maybe, but it's going to take like decades for people to, at least the hardcore Star Wars fans, to forget about it. And I don't think a lot of you casual fans, you know, like the normal, everyday, like moviegoers, I don't think they really care about this Disney Star Wars thing. It's kind of like, you know what I mean, you're doing the whole trilogy, 3-movie business model, beginning, middle, end, but then people forget about them real quick. Especially when you have Marvel, where you're just like, man, you have a freaking 23-movie, 11-year build-up, blah, blah, blah. So you're kind of more spoiled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you're dealing with a trilogy, you're like, all right, 3 movies, we're done. If it's not like a franchise where you can put multiple characters or you could extend it for many years. If it's just a 3 trilogy movie, no, everyone's gonna forget about it and move on to the next thing. So I think they shot themselves in the foot with the casual fans, because casual fans are not gonna be buying the books, the comics, and the lore and the video games and stuff like that. I don't hear that many casual movie fans buying The Rise of Palpatine novelization at Barnes & Noble or Amazon or Nook or even iTunes. I don't hear any of them talking about we're going to buy these novels with our own money. No, because they only care about the special effects and seeing on the big screen, and that's it. They're not going to be supporting the franchise off the screen. Where the hardcore fans, they support it off the screen. So they just lost that audience. The audience that would support Star Wars when it came to off the screen and on the screen. The casual, everyday, regular people, they're not going to be buying the books and the comics and stuff like that, and that's what's going to shoot themselves in the foot when it comes to the sequel trilogy in the long run. So that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know in the comment section below. Tell me what you guys think. Do you think the do you think the sequel trilogy will be forgiven a lot quicker than the prequel trilogy? Let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you rate and like the video and subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Peace and have a great day and take care.